Alright guys, welcome back again. I'm liking that bass, by the way. Ducks can be really mean. Have you ever seen an angry duck? Yes. They don't love being killed, funnily enough. What, they can see you coming? They know they're about to die? I don't have to ambush them if that's what you're wondering. They usually figure it out by the time I pick them up by the neck and put them on the chopping block though. How would one sneakily attack a duck? Very easily, probably. They're ducks. But you don't attack them that way. Correct. Why not? Again, I feel like you are all severely overestimating the power of a single duck and underestimating me, a fully grown woman. How many ducks would it take before you think you'd lose? I could defeat every duck. It is simply not a problem for me. You tell him. You tell him. Every duck? In the world? Come on. I could defeat infinite ducks. Tell him, Eustace. They're small and have little necks. I could kill a duck by accident. It simply doesn't require any measurable amount of my strength. You would get tired eventually. I would not. You're talking as if they're ants. I think it requires a little more energy to kill a duck than an insect. Especially if there are a lot of them at once. I would swing my arms. I would kick out my legs. A group of ducks would crumple immediately in a fight against me. Okay, now I'm thinking about you killing a lot of ducks and it's making me really sad because I'm imagining you killing all the ducks I'm looking after with huge kicks and punches, and I love those ducks and I hate this conversation now. I'm sorry, Darcy. I didn't mean to upset you. We're speaking hypothetically here. I'm not gonna kill all of your ducks. At least she's honest. I'm not gonna kill all of them. That's okay. Thank you, Eustace. She's not gonna kill them all at once anyway. Just the ones we need for food. She's trying to get out of it. She thought we wouldn't notice. Hedwig. Madam? She stood up holding her empty plate. I would like to see you in my office when you finish eating. I didn't know what they were. I just stuck out my hand. I beg your pardon? Oh, nothing. Silence. They're just dried apples, dear. Oh. What? Come on, Marta, give me some too. Absolutely not. You've been a little... Are nuns allowed to... Yeah, there you go. I was about to say, are they allowed to use language? I'm pretty sure they're not. Marta. Crone. Gutter snipe. Runyon. That's enough. The superior looked irritated. Flora and Marta looked as if they were having a grand old time. Hedwig. I'd just like to speak with you privately about your new duties as chronicler, now that you're feeling better. Oh. Yes, of course. Thank you. One of the others will show you where my office is when you're ready. She strode out of the room magnanimously. Take your time. Enjoy the rest of your luncheon. I started nibbling on some cheese. Everyone was watching me. I'm happy to share the apples, if you'd all like. There was a dull roar of agreement from everyone in the room, all except for Angela, who had been pretending to ignore everyone for the entire meal. I broke up the handful of dried fruit into 2 piles and passed 2 either side of me, keeping 1 piece for myself. Thank you kindly. So, now that Eldormam is gone, do tell us about yourself. I realized that even now, after I had no more candied fruits to give, everyone in the room was staring at me with intense interest. Oh, well, I didn't know what I could say that I didn't say this morning. What did you say this morning? I must admit, wiping up your sick has overridden any memory of that you'd said prior. Sorry. Catherine shrugged, smirking. Margaret waved a hand. It gave us a chance to... Ow! A chance to reflect on the nature of servitude to God, and so on. I could see Angela raising one of her eyebrows out of the corner of my eye. Anyway, Hedwig's adapting wonderfully. She had some trouble with the stairs, but got the hang of them quickly. I imagine you probably have some trouble with stairs if you've been locked in a little room for that long. Yes, whereas we're all locked in a big room, aren't we? With each other for company. Locked is a strong word, Catherine. You're right as usual. We aren't locked in. The hill is more of a moat. Honestly, you sound just like Flora sometimes. Or a hill. I'm not sure the metaphor is necessary. Metaphor? That's a big word. As expected, however, from our resident librarian, cum butcher. On the subject of ducks, I was merely speaking in hypotheticals. Ooh, that's another good word. What does hypothetical mean, Eustace? I regret saying anything. I'm being earnest. It means mind control. You're thinking of hypnosis. 3 for 3. A loud jeer went up around the table. Darcy, let me out, please. Eustace screwed her chair back with a loud squeak and stormed out of the room. Oh, come on, Eustace, please come back. Perhaps this is rich of me to say, but I think you lot don't know when to lay off sometimes. I do not understand in this case. 1 minute she's talking about fighting ducks, but now she's upset we're joking about fancy words. Bad timing, I think. She's doing her best, but she's quite torn up. We all are. It's horrible. Hedwig, dear, if you don't know. I know. As I said, she was joking about killing ducks. I would have thought that would have been worse than joking about words. You're young. It's never the obvious things that remind some folk of grief past. Eustace is the librarian, and Catherine was the chronicler, of course. In a pod they were. Peas in a pod they were. Not just them. We all miss her very much. It isn't a competition. Flora looked as if she was about to mouth off in response, but at that moment... Eustace re-entered the room carrying a large wooden bowl. What the hell happened in here? We were wondering where you'd gone off to. We were worried you were upset. Eustace said nothing as she walked to the table with a bowl, smiling gently. That's playing dirty, Eustace. I have no idea what you're talking about. I forgot I made this to celebrate our newcomer after all. I believe you. Gaylead? After you've all candied apple? Goodness. Haha. What's Gaylead? Puddin'. Eustace ladled on the sweet-smelling treat onto everyone's plates. When it was Angela's turn to be offered some, she pushed her chair back and stood up, jolting the entire table forward and causing everyone's plates to wobble. Darcy and Moira had to hold onto their dishes to keep them from spilling over onto their robes. Is everything alright, Angela? No. With a glare that seemed to lock with every pair of eyes in the room, Angela stalked out of the rectory hall. I thought she'll be coming back with pudding. It's kind of hard to determine... Go up, thou bald one. It's kind of hard to determine who may be the culprit in this because all of them are so friendly, you know? I mean, we still have a long ways to go. We just started, but, you know, trying to gauge, like, any possibility is difficult, even with the weird ones. I was in considerably higher spirits after eating. I excused myself after finishing the Gaylead. I got a little self-conscious about how long I was taking to meet with the superior, even though there had been a few awkward moments. I really didn't want the conversation to end. Still, feeling like I should be responsible and punctual, I excused myself partway through a continued discussion about what animals Eustace could best in hand-to-hand combat. Darcy helpfully volunteered to show me to the office. It was on the first floor further down the hallway, she taking me down the way to the kitchen and bath. Here you go. Thank you. And thank you again for the mint as well. And for showing me around before. Oh, and I helped cook lunch. Oh, well, thank you for that as well. I didn't make all of it, but that's enough, and that's sad to not hear a thank you from others, and nice to hear it from you. Well, in I go. In you go. Enter. I opened the door and slipped inside. Darcy watched me with a big grin still plastered to her face. I will say, though, I do like Darcy a lot more, though. I really hope she isn't the one. Like, I just like her personality overall. The Superior's office was small but meticulously kept. It was rather plush compared to the rest of the rooms I'd seen so far. A grand window looked out into the garden, and there was a door off to the left that I presumed to lead to a private bedchamber. The Superior herself sat at a thick oaken desk in a rather ornate chair. How are you feeling? Much better, thank you. Good. Good. How has your morning fared, setting aside your little fainting spell? I rummage around in recent memory for a reassuring anecdote. Oh, it has been an interesting experience. I managed to run straight into Sister Angela on the way into the chapel, and Sister Catherine introduced me to Sister Margaret. Uh-huh. Those two. Try not to let them rope you into any schemes. No, of course. They are both incredibly adept at sneaking around. Both of them have managed to scare me witless with their creeping. I'm relieved that I'm not alone then. Indeed. Do you have any leads yet? Leads? Any idea who could have killed Catherine yet? Any hint at all? Anything to follow up on? No. That is a pity. Mother Superior, I had been out of myself for all of 6 hours, if that. For much of that time I was ill, and then asleep, and then alone in a bathtub. What clues could you possibly expect me to have already? Did you really think someone would slip up and tell me over luncheon? No. I suppose I shouldn't have counted on anything quite so miraculous happening. She turned around and stepped towards the large window. Some thorny bushes were growing underneath, and a few trees dotted the path between the building and the garden. Light and shadow danced across her habit as she paced back and forth slowly. I don't even know how Catherine died. I've heard some mournful whispers from the sisters I've met, but I haven't a clue as to what actually happened. When did she pass? How? Where's her body? You know, what I always seem to neglect to realize that Superior could also be a suspect in this, and I need to always keep that in mind. I can't just think my fellow sisters are just the only culprits at hand. It could be her too. Sister Catherine was found in the cloister on the first morning of November. She was laying on her back with a sword plunged into the earth just above her. Her head had been cut. Oh my god, I thought she was just stabbed. And arranged in her hands. It was ghoulish. So that's what was in the grass. I thought it was a crucifix. Yes. No one, least of all me, could bear to remove it. It's become something of a monument to Catherine, I suppose. Rather grim. A bloodied sword feels like an awful way to remember someone. You'll get no argument from me, but these women are strange sometimes. That would be true regardless of my suspicions. That said, the blade is actually clean. It was clean even when we found it. It was? Yes. Angela found the stable boy hiding in the yard without a speck of blood on him, but Sister Darcy discovered his cloak elsewhere. It was tarnished, and Angela surmised that he used it to wipe down the blade before attempting to flee. A sound theory at the time. I have my doubts now, though. Who found the body? Sister Charity, on one of her morning walks. The round woman you met at lunch. Don't call someone round. I don't mean it as an insult. Go up, thou bald one. What happened with Catherine's body? If you're hoping to play surgeon and examine her for clues, I'm afraid she's already been interred. I understand. This is actually a small relief. As determined as I was to find Catherine's killer and help bring them to justice, a dead body was the last thing I wanted to see. Where was she buried? The cemetery is a short hike from here on the hill. I can have one of the sisters show you there should you feel the need to visit. Say a few words. Not that you could have known her, I suppose. What a great idea! What if the murderer, since you don't believe it was a suspicious boy with blood on his shirt, decides to off me as well? Perhaps while taking me on a pleasant hike. Alone. Up to the cemetery. I must say, it feels rather difficult involving myself with others when you've directed me to spy on them. You make it sound so ugly. We are seeking justice. I had no choice in the matter. I'm sticking my neck out based on your intuition. Let's not fight about it. What's done is done. You are no longer an anchoress. You are free to do whatever you wish once the killer is captured. I was perfectly happy where I was. Don't be ridiculous. You might as well have been a prisoner. If that were so, I'd have been your prisoner. I really, truly do not want to fight about this. Yeah, so you keep saying every time I question something. Stop giving me this insolence. By God, where's the awkward little titmouse who introduced herself to service this morning? She's standing in front of you, rather upset about the situation she's been thrust into. You are not but a bratty child. A woman, a member of our family, had her bloody head cut off, and all you can think about is your own comfort. These people are not my family. You least of all. I am your superior. I am your abbess. You are my charge, and you will do as I say. I've been as accommodating and kind as I possibly can in asking for your assistance, but make no mistake. I do not need to ask, nor will I in the future if I require something of you. I am neither an ant nor sluggard, abbess. I'll respect your wishes as my superior, but I am not a soldier awaiting commands. Are you surprised? I must admit I surprised myself at this moment as well. Maybe my humors were still off kilter. Maybe I was tired of feeling meek and embarrassed all morning. Perhaps I, free from myself for the first time in many years, was trying out new behaviors to see how they fit me the way one tries on a new cloak at the market. Or maybe, just maybe, it was something else. Do you think Darcy could have been right when she said this place was haunted? I am sorry. Once again, I am being unfair. Please try to understand. I have so much love for this place. These halls are my responsibility, and if it falls apart, I don't know what I'd do. If you truly believe the stable boy did not do it, I could so easily throw him to the wolves. Don't you see? I do not mean to throw you to them in his place. I mean to take the more difficult path here. I would rather stake my reputation on seeking the truth than condemn an innocent boy for my own gain. It would not be right. I understand. I can feel myself becoming smaller, meeker again, deflating like an empty water skin. If you want me to start truly investigating things, I need somewhere to start. I can't just hope to stumble into an answer. May I speak with the accused, the stable boy in the hospitalum? An obvious but nonetheless excellent idea. I felt so trapped by my position leading the convent. Despite this investigation ultimately being my responsibility, I didn't dare think of involving myself so directly, but you could speak with him. I'll take you to the hospitalum. In secret, of course. I'll arrange a time and send for you under the pretense of a more chronicler business. I would still pose my first question to you again, however. Think hard. Has anything stuck out particularly unusual to you? Everything is unusual to me. I was fighting back tears now. Meek. Everything. Did Catherine tell you I barely made it down the stairs this morning? In my mind, I knew what stairs were, but I can't remember if I'd ever actually walked up or down any before today. It'll take some time to adjust. I'm not sure if I will ever fully adjust. Have faith. If I could offer one small observation at least, if there's anything I find strange, it's how calm everyone seems. So you felt it too. I'm glad it was not just my own superstition. Everyone seems happy, especially at luncheon. They were joking, laughing. I suppose I'd have no way of truly knowing, but the congregation certainly isn't behaving what I expect them to, knowing one of them just died. It is odd, isn't it? Yes, I suppose. Your instincts weren't wrong. I'm asking for my help. In asking for my help. I changed the subject quickly. I did not want the spirit to think I was happy with her choice in my situation. God forbid. Oh, a question. Is it true the hours are compressed here? A morning service and an evening office that encompass every office? Yes. That's fairly standard in most monastic communities nowadays. Why didn't you tell me that? My cell wasn't far away. You knew how to use stairs. The bishop forbade it. Why? Because an anchorite's entire purpose is to do things normal people cannot. She was right. I tensed and untensed my hands a few times, unsure what to do with myself. I was to bear burdens no one else was expected to, all alone in there. You thought otherwise? I don't know. I suppose I never really considered it. I just read scripture and theology all the time. I had an idea in my mind of what an abbey was supposed to look like, and I thought even if my role was different from everyone else's, would be at least similar. Things are very different when you have responsibilities. The day-to-day tasks of earthly life, as much the monastery reduces them to their basics, are still quite time-consuming. Animals must be tended to. Food must be grown and prepared. Work arises and must be done. Besides, you had your own work to do. You had books to copy. Scripture to commit to, memory. Prayers for the townspeople to amplify. What? You were given written prayers to say for people. That was one of your core duties. I was given no such thing. Now is a very poor time for jokes. I am being completely serious. I have no idea what you're talking about. I copied books, I prayed the hours. I was never given anything else to pray for, save for the occasional visitor to the hagioscope's prayers. She gave me a piercing, icy glare. Then, as if a set of strings holding her upright had been cut, she collapsed into her chair. I don't understand. We are very far away from the nearest village or town here. Nonetheless, we are here, and we serve the people of Limbarrow and their needs, offered them help with their prayers. Of course. I would have happily done so if I received any. Because we're up on this hill. We're sent supplies from the village. Things we can't grow ourselves, essentials, the occasional holiday luxuries, and so on. Holy crap, that's loud. She reached down to a drawer under her desk, pulling out 2 small cups and a carafe. She uncorked the container and poured some dark liquid into both cups. Wine. Drink up. She slid one of the cups towards me with her own. I took it gingerly. I had, of course, had wine before, but this smelled different. This is nicer than anything you've had brought to you, I'd wager. One of the aforementioned occasional luxuries. Drink it. Drink it, please. I braved a sip. She was right. It was different. For one thing, it was quite strong. The superior took a big swig of hers and continued. When you were brought here and made to take the vows, one of the first things that crossed my mind was how inconvenient it would be to expect the people of the village to trek up here every time they needed spiritual aid. Why, it'd be positively cruel to make children walk all the way to the anchorists themselves. Old men with walking sticks. You get the picture. And since we are all the way up here on this lonely hill, I thought, why, I know what would make things easier. I offered the townsfolk a simple idea. They're an educated sort down there, you see. Not like us, or, well... She waved her cup towards the door. More than them. So I told the people to write their prayers down. Give them to the young man who brings her supplies. We'll sort through them and pass them on to the anchorists here. And did they? I saw the envelopes, yes. Many times. I don't understand. The abbess took a final pull from her cup and slammed it back into the desk. Giving those letters to you was Catherine's responsibility. Huh. And now that she's gone, I didn't know what to say. The woman who had come to the hagioscope so many times, who had seemed so interested in me and my way of life, had been hiding an entire function of my job from me. Why? It made no sense. The already foggy picture I had of Catherine in my mind was losing definition. I suppose I could start by just asking the others about Catherine. Be careful. That could raise suspicions rather quickly. Well, I'm taking over her old role. It would make sense to everyone if I asked about her, I think. I should know the size of the shoes I meant to fill. As long as you're careful to frame it that way. Of course. I just don't understand. Why would Catherine withhold my letters? The spirit let out a heavy sigh and brought a hand to her temple. She looked as if she'd aged 5 years over the course of this conversation. I don't know. The more I hear, the less I understand. That's exactly how I feel. I know this is the right thing to do, but I was not expecting things to get this tangled quite so quickly. I'll do my best to untangle things, Abbess. I tried my utmost to sound authoritative. Maybe I really was trying out new personalities. The superior gave me a tired smile in response. Bless you. Take a wander around the grounds and talk with some of the sisters. They should be taking most of the rest of the day for their work, but I'm sure they'll make time to chat. I gave a little bow of my head and turned to leave through the larger oaken door. I stepped out into the empty hallway. I had no idea where to start looking for people, but I realized now was as decent a time as any to explore the abbey and get my bearings. Truth be told, I had no idea how huge this place actually was when I was in my cell. I had a few diagrams of monasteries and cathedrals in my books, but those were just little lines on a page. Now that I was actually wandering around an abbey myself, one that seemed to skew the careful layouts I had read about at that, I found myself marveling at the tiniest things. Most of the stonework was quite old. I had noticed that some walls lining the path to the bath and kitchen were in disrepair. I didn't quite know how to describe it, but it wasn't just dilapidation. Some parts of this place just looked older, squared off, less detailed. The chapel, for instance, was certainly very tall inside, felt very simple. Big box, really. But as I walked around the grounds, I noticed that certain sections of the abbey were meticulously detailed. There were little flourishes in the corners of the stonework. Bits and pieces that didn't seem to serve any particular function but certainly caught the eye. And then the thought maybe that was the function. I hadn't seen many other buildings before, but I could immediately spot the difference between parts of the monastery. I reached for a comparison I could make. I connected it to books, of course. Some parts of the abbey felt like they had been built the way Old Testament has been translated. Functional, blunt, constructed out of the bare necessities to make the point immediately. In the story of Elisha I was relaying earlier, the distance between the bears, tearing those children apart, and Elisha arriving in Bethel is 2 lines or so. Other parts of the abbey were more majestic, pretty. Perhaps there was a structural reason for the way things look, but the look is what draws you in. You can gaze it and ponder what it means rather than understanding its purpose immediately. Maybe it's just decorative. Maybe it's decorative and functional. Or perhaps the decoration is the function. It's a long-winded and aesthetically interesting, like something Aquinas wrote. Romance versus Gothic. Well, yes, that was exactly what I was getting to. Apologize for rambling. I'm trying to illustrate how my mind was piercing my new world together after being locked in a room for 7 years. I suppose I'm the Aquinas between the two of us, aren't I? Talent by God, but certainly in method. That's okay. You can be Roman and I'll be Catholic. Oh, I'll be Gothic. My bad. I took a turn I hadn't made before down some stairs. I trod carefully, still embarrassed about my little adventure with Catherine that morning. I realized I was stepping into the undercroft, which meant the cellars must be nearby. I wandered through the croft until I heard voices echoing around. They sounded strained. I followed them until I spotted barrels. Lots and lots of barrels. Oh man, this would be Ashton's like freaking paradise right here. To those that know, Ashton's like one of the main characters in Star Ocean 2, I believe. But he loved barrels. Barrels! I walked through the rows of casks in awe. This was a lot of wine. I could see 2 figures ahead of me. Oh, hello, Hedwig. Hello, you two. Did Marta put you on cellar duty? Oh, no. I just came down here to talk to Flora. I was on cellar duty. Is everything alright? Oh, everything is just fine. We're just talking about chess. I am very competitive and sometimes I just raise my voice, I suppose. Yeah. Are you good at chess, Hedwig? I've never played, actually. Of course. What a silly question for me to ask. Who would you have played against? That's right. You can play chess against yourself. Where's the fun in that? You get to be alone for starters. Bah! No. That is such a waste of time. There's no romance in that. Romance? The thrill of competition. The heat of battle. Chivalry requires spectatorship. To do battle not with swords, but with wits. Romance takes 2. Wow, you certainly do get passionate about chess. I can romance myself just fine. I do it all the time. Flora! Now you're just disrespecting the game. I don't understand. Well, anyway, Flora, I still demand a rematch. You will face me on the field of battle of the mind, and I will prove to you that your last victory was but a fluke. Fine, whatever. But I'll get you out of my face. Tonight, we duel. Adele lifted up an imaginary sword. then twirled it and sheathed it at her side. Okay, sure.